If you are new here, my name is Corey and I am a bone cancer survivor. And I want to talk to you guys about how my anxiety cracked. Now, I want to take you guys back to a time when I was tiny. I grew up in a household where there was a lot of fighting, yelling, screaming, interpersonal violence, isolation, feeling lonely, hiding in the bedroom, trying to get away from the chaos. So the anxiety started early. It first manifested as not being able to sleep well at night and constantly sleepwalking, talking a lot in my sleep, like in a panicked fashioned way, where I would just like going so frantically in my sleep as a little child. It then manifested into, I have to be the best possible thing that I could be at school. I had to be at the top, an A- was not good enough because my anxiety told me it was not good enough. It manifested in ways where I truly did not understand other people in the sense that if I wasn't close to perfect, I was worthless. I didn't see other people that way, but I saw myself that way. So when someone next to me would get, a C on a test and I got a B and I was having a breakdown, they thought I was being a spoiled brat. When at the end of the day, to me, that B felt like the end of times. It felt like I'm going to be shunned by everyone around me. It manifested as me being constantly paranoid about everything going on around me. Are they talking about me? Are they talking about me? As I got older, it only grew and got worse. Once you feed the anxiety monster, it only grows and grows. It became a big factor in how I lived my everyday life. It felt like my anxiety was who I am. It was my personality. It ruled my life. It felt like there was that was Corey. Corey was constantly on edge, constantly feeling like they were just shoving and hiding everything bad that happened into this deep, dark closet, and that closet was going to explode and overflow at any time. And when it did, I'd have to just pick up the pieces and shove them right back in and close the doors and hoped that they held for just a little bit longer. And it got to the point where I wasn't living my life. I was in this deep, dark depression, and my anxiety was my way of surviving in the world. It's a good thing to have some anxiety. There's a reason why we have this emotion. But when it becomes the thing that literally rules your life, that feels like it drives your personality, that's a problem. Now, was it somewhat helpful in trying to protect me from all of the things going on in my life? In some ways, yes. Once I get out of this environment that's pushing me and pushing me and pushing me, it becomes a humongous problem. I don't feel like I had a chance to be a child. I don't know how to live my life without being anxious. I meet the love of my life and I realize I won't be able to keep this person in my life if I don't do something. And the only reason that I really honestly truly think to this day that I even got to where we are now in the story is because I met somebody who gave me the opportunity to have the environment I needed to cultivate that. Now, was it my choice to try to do something about it? Yes, of course it was. But what happened is I got done with college and I came back to my hometown. I met the love of my life and I decided I cannot lose this person. I have to do something about this. I don't know what is wrong with me. I don't know why I behave this way. I don't know why I feel like I'm constantly feeling like I'm a volcano about to explode, but I have to do something about this or I'm going to lose someone very important to me in my life. And so I started my journey. I started the journey of going to therapy. And oh boy, was that... It's been a long time. It's been over 7 years of on and off therapy that has helped build me to this point where I didn't even understand like that. I thought it was just who I was. I didn't understand this bubbling like soda that's gonna explode. I just thought that was my personality. I didn't understand that was even a psychological disorder. I didn't understand I had generalized anxiety disorder because that's how I felt all the time. And so once I started figuring out slowly these things in therapy, it helped. It really helped. And I really try to keep pushing myself to be in the healthiest environment I could possibly be. When you grow up from a tiny child, you grow and you grow and you grow, and all you know is this bubbling, overwhelming sense of dread from the anxiety you live with every single day. It takes a long time to figure out where it's coming from, why it's there. So I worked in therapy. I kind of sort of was starting to understand some of the pieces, and I felt like I just needed to take a break. But what really caused the break was then I got diagnosed with bone cancer at the age of 24. And that was a whole different traumatic experience. You want to talk about anxiety, ramp it up by 10 when you think that your life is truly and honestly on the line. That was a setback. I felt like I was starting to make some progress in understanding who I was and why the way I was, even though I wasn't even scratching the surface at that time. I was just barely starting to get into it. I had this life-altering moment where I get this phone call in the middle of the night and I'm told, "I'm sorry, but you have cancer." And within several weeks, you have a life-altering surgery that renders you disabled and forever changes the outcome and course of your life. Honestly, although I would never wish to have gone through it, I think that was a huge, important part of learning how to work through things, because instead of dealing with my childhood trauma, I had this really fresh, raw trauma that I had to deal with as an adult, but in a healthy environment, in a much healthier space with more supportive people around me. And so I keep pushing myself. I keep pushing myself after this. I hit this hard setback of having half my femur removed from my body. And I move to where my husband's family is. I get married to this person that started me on this like self-improvement journey. I get here and I start a new therapist, one who we've gone off the charts in the last 3 years of all of the things that we have pieced out and figured out together. I would work with my therapist, and over time, I understood the logical components. We broke down the pieces to little tiny bits, and I could understand logically, I have this anxiety. This anxiety was used to try to protect me from all of these things because I constantly felt unsafe. Now, why can't I connect with this emotionally? I would get so irate, so frustrated with the fact that I could understand logically what happened, and why it happened, and why I continue to do these behaviors. But I just couldn't connect emotionally to any of it. You know what? Let's stop being so frustrated with this. We can do something. Let's do something about this. Now, what it came down to was my nervous system. And how do I keep my nervous system calm so I can work through my issues? I can deal with the emotions. I can process these things. I can continue living my life every single day. I started getting into, throughout this process, really getting outside a lot. When I moved to the area I live in now, there are so many hiking trails. There's so much waterways and bodies of water to do stuff on. I found that I really enjoyed kayaking, and I didn't understand. I'd go kayaking and I just, in the middle, being super calm, I would suddenly feel this overwhelming urge to just burst into tears. Like my eyes just felt like they were like the faucet was on and bursting and wanting to explode. And I didn't understand it for a while. I'd go for a hike and I'd get that pit of the stomach, like I just need to cry moment. And it wasn't like I was sad. It wasn't like I was angry. I was just super calm, and I didn't understand it for the longest time. I eventually bring it up to my therapist and say, I've had these really odd, strange moments when I'm out in nature. And she goes, that's when your nervous system is calm. What you're describing to me is you're purposely putting yourself in an environment to calm yourself that is soothing and your body is releasing emotion that it has not been able to release. Oh, that makes so much sense. Why haven't I? Because I thought it was a bad thing. I was extremely scared and overwhelmed when that happened because I don't know what's going on. This is so bizarre. Why am I suddenly like crying in my kayak? I don't get it. Like, I'm enjoying this. Why is this happening? And I stressed myself out about it. And then I realized I'm giving myself space to have calm, quiet time. Those little moments, like that moment in my yak when I was in that water passageway, are those little moments that I started to develop and accrue into this pot of memories that I could pull from as a source of strength when I feel like I needed to try to calm myself down. Now, these were just little blips in time. This wasn't a consistent, calm nervous system. But I had never had anything like that in the past. So it was a step forward. The next step wasn't just a step. It was like light years. The next thing that happened kind of all snowballed and tumbled, and there's so many factors I think that went into what happened, but I'll try to explain them for you real fast. A couple months ago, pretty much, I would say starting the beginning of this year, I really took a different attitude on life, and I started this YouTube channel about 1.5 years ago, and really at the beginning of this year, I'm like, I really want to get outside a lot this summer. I want to enjoy being there. I want to enjoy just doing the activities. I want to take it day by day. I want to take it step by step. I can do this. At the beginning of the year, I was still experiencing the everyday fear, the everyday anxiety. We had gone through some very intense therapy sessions towards the beginning of 2023 is when this video is being filmed. I was so overwhelmed, and I felt like I couldn't handle it anymore because we were dealing with some of the worst of the trauma I've experienced. I didn't know what to do about it. So at the beginning of the summer, I was just like, I need to do stuff for myself. I have to put myself first. Started setting up more boundaries with people. I started going outside more. I made a commitment to myself to go outside and get some nature therapy is what I call it. It recharges my batteries. It gives me the strength to keep going. I'm like, I have to get outside. I don't care if it's even sitting on my deck and not being on my phone, not doing anything, just sitting there and listening to the breeze, listening to the corn ears tussle, listening to the birds chirp their way through life. I have to get outside. And exercise had been important in that. I said, you know what? I can walk. I might have half my femur sawed off, but I can walk. So I started trying to do these things. It started helping. Towards the end of the summer, I had decided, I've always been open to different types of non-medicated treatment. There had been a lot of research, and I'd seen things pop up about the use of social media and screen time and how too much of it is extremely unhealthy. Our brains, it takes so much. I think my therapist called it the prefrontal cortex. It takes up a lot of use of our brain where we need to process emotion, and where a really big important part of our brain in terms of how we live our everyday lives. I decided I was going to limit myself to 2 hours of screen time per day outside of work because I work from home and there's just no way to avoid that. But 2 hours of purposeful screen time, whether that's being on my phone, watching TV, watching a movie, 2 hours. That has been interesting. But around that same time, I had gotten a phone call about a close family member that they had fallen in the middle of the night, and they were never going to wake up. And it was very unexpected. I knew I was going to have to face a lot of the childhood traumas that I had experienced because I was going to be going to this funeral. All at the same time, I'm doing this social media stuff where I'm limiting screen time. Something in this last 3 months is kind of when all this really, really accumulated, right? I was getting those little pockets of calm nervous system time. And then I started doing the screen time thing. Something started to shift. I noticed myself growing calmer. I noticed that I wasn't, my body didn't feel like it was buzzing like a bee. I was in the hardest couple of weeks at work for me because that midsummer is the hardest time for me at work. It's the busiest I am the entire year. In those weeks, I was try to focus on this, so the limiting screen time, finish, try and get through work, and then at the end of this was the funeral. And so I keep going with this, and I start noticing the change in behavior. And I'm like, this is really stinking weird. Normally I am way more bouncing off the walls, and it was very surprising. So I get to the weekend of the funeral. Per usual, it was chaos. There was a lot of things that happened. I was there for 48 hours, basically. An unhealthy number of things happened that were not good. And that was just a reminder of what it was like growing up for me. I handled it so differently because I had purposely not stayed at the house where everyone was going to be meeting at. I purposely got a rental car so that way I had the freedom to get away from situations if I needed to get away from situations. I made purposeful decisions, and I told myself, I am here to grieve this family member. I am not here to deal with anything else. I'm not here to deal with the family drama. I am solely here to grieve for this person, and I'm not going to tolerate anything less. And put myself first, and put the grieving for my family member there as the number one priority. I got back pleasantly surprised at how I handled all of it, in the sense that I didn't let everything that happened there get to me, because I was making conscious choices as an adult to protect this child that had been very hurt by everything that had happened in the past. Right basically after I get back from the funeral, if you know anything about my bone cancer story, I have been having severe issues with doing stairs normally, and I have not done anything other than walking since my surgery in early January of 2019. I went for a run. I don't know what possessed me, but I was like, I'm gonna go for a run. Like, I'm gonna try hobbling my way through. I'm gonna try this. Why not? Like, my brain was just calm, and I was just like, by myself in a place where nobody could watch me, and I said, I'm gonna try this. And I did it. My brain just was like, ding! I also do that strength, and I had, for the longest time, had this thing where I couldn't do stairs, and I'd gone to physical therapy over and over again. And I finally figured out how I can do stairs. Ding! I have all these big, huge moments happening in this like small 3-4 month window where I've built up all of these skills, learned all of these things about myself over the last basically 10 years. Somewhere in that 3 months, like, my anxiety was this, if you could imagine it, like this glass, like a giant glass ball that doesn't want to break. It just cracked. Everything just cracked like a mirror that falls on the ground and goes and glass spews everywhere. That's what it felt like. Like, it felt like something deep inside just cracked, and there's no going back to it. Like, something fundamentally within my soul, within who I am, has changed. I don't feel this overwhelming buzzing anymore. I don't feel like my anxiety is ruling my everyday thoughts. I have this sense of calm, like this unnerving calm. And one of the most important things that came up in this 3-month period, outside of what I have told you, when you limit screen time, you gotta find a lot of other things to do to keep yourself busy. But even then, there's still moments where you're going to be bored. And I would tell my therapist this. I'm like, I've been bored, more bored lately, but I've just kind of like become accustomed to it. I've become okay with just sitting with myself. Not like I am dissociating or daydreaming like I used to. I'm just sitting there present in the moment. And my therapist goes, that's exactly what you need in your life. Why do I need to be bored in my life? Because you've never given yourself the opportunity to be bored and let yourself just sit in the moment. And I had never thought of it that way. It made so much sense. Because at a time of boredom, I'm not super anxious. I'm not super depressed. I'm just sitting there. And that is power, to have this calm nervous system. I can actually feel other emotions. I can feel the wave of happiness like tingles over my skin. I can feel true sadness, actually be able to grieve some of the things I haven't been able to because I've just lived with fear and anxiety for so long. I can feel true joy. Now, I don't want you to think that this means my anxiety is cured. That is long from the truth. But I have never been at such a great place, and my plan is to try to stay here and continue doing the things that I have been doing that have brought me here. My life feels like it has completely changed so fundamentally. I worried for a very long time in therapy. What would it be like living without anxiety? I had such a fear of like, who am I without anxiety? It's something that came up quite frequently in therapy for me because I had identified it with so much with myself as who I was, not something that affected me. That I was scared of who I am underneath that. But that fear is no longer there. I've always been this person. All of the experiences I've had have made me the person I am today. But the conscious choices I make today are what affects me now. But I want to thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I really do hope you take care. Bye.